Hello, everybody.
Hey, hey, hey.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mikestand. It is Wednesday, August the 21st, 2024. So we're about two-thirds of the way, a little over two-thirds of the way. Hey, Natsumi. I saw some of your comments on the Discord, so that's cool. Thank you for that. Or I guess Netsumi, I guess is. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing that right. If you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions, and we'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So let's see.
Natsumi says it's Thursday for him because it's 2 a.m. Are you in jolly old England or somewhere else? Natsumi?
Netsuni. Okay. Okay. I just did. Okay. Oh,
Natsumi.
I see it now as I pulled it up. But it's whatever you like to pronounce. Well, I always try. I always try to do it as correctly as possible. I just didn't. I wasn't sure that was an N or an M. You know, I do know that in Japan there is a female's name. One of the more feminine names is Natsumi, Natsumi, but you put it down as Netsumi. So um, it's England, and also I'm female. Yeah,
It's England.
yeah. So it's a she, Rick, not a he. I had a feeling it was a woman because
Yeah, yeah,
even though as I said, I
yeah.
thought her
I
name was
read the
Sumi.
comments.
It's a female name. Not Sumi is a female name in Japanese. So if this is similar, Netsuni, then it was likely she's a female. But I wasn't gonna say anything unless she actually said it, and she just did. So again,
Yeah,
and I know I just probably said this just now,
yeah.
but
Well,
if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability, or we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, with all that being said, Rick, would you like to do an intro?
well, of course, my name is Rick Piper. I have my own comic company, Cross Comics, as people may or may not be able to see. You see in one of my books, Canadian Shield #2 there. Um, I have a channel here on YouTube as well. If anybody wants to go check that out, I'll put a link later in the chat. I'll make sure to go get it. I do a chill stream, what I call a chill stream once a week on Tuesday. I have lots of content because I used to do like 5 to 6 days a week and 2 shows a day, but it got a little much and things weren't going quite as fast as I wanted, so I ended up slowing down a lot. But now I've got a bunch of subscribers. Unfortunately, I'm not in my own place, so once I get in my own place, I'm going to probably ramp up the content a little bit more. And I've done drawings of Marvel, DC, anime, manga. So if you want to go back and watch some old things, be drawing live. Yeah, and again, sorry for the misgendering. Natsumi. Somehow it sounds female, so I probably should have guessed with that. The avatar or the picture shows a girl too. That should have been a clue, but can't always tell. It's the net, right?
Well, there have been times when people have you know online acted like they're one gender, and you come to find out they're another. But I usually go with what just shows up naturally. So if they have like a female avatar and or a female sounding name, I'm going to naturally assume it's female until they correct me.
Yeah,
But anyways, well, I mean,
yeah,
Natsuni is did have some comments here, so we will um so let's at least get caught up on those here. Yeah, I'm born in Japan but live in England. All right.
Cool.
I have like sure. Thank you for that, Netsuni. Hopefully, as I said, we can get some more people in here to engage, and then also, it is fine. I found it rather humorous. All right. Well,
Well,
plus
that's
it's a
good.
learning experience. You get as you get to know people, you figure things out. So that's
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with that,
Plus, I think the thing is, this channel we usually get guys around, so that's another reason I probably
yeah,
assume
well, yeah,
like.
yeah, most of the audience tends to be guys, but girls, women are always you know, men and women both are always welcome on the show. So, you know,
Tell him I
is that
said
you,
hi
Rick?
this time.
Yeah. What? No, that was my cousin saying hi to you.
Uh, hello.
Not realizing that
You
you're
know what?
talking and you
I
could
just
probably.
realized this. I don't. Rick, what is your cousin's name? Well, actually, why don't we have her pop on real quick there to say hi and introduce
There.
herself? 'Cause I don't think I know her name actually.
Uh, my cousin's name is Anita.
Anita.
You need to
Hello,
go
Anita.
that way, Anita.
Yeah,
There.
I see. She's right over your shoulder there.
Yeah.
Got a little smile.
See, whatever you see here is what
Backwards.
they see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice to
Yeah,
meet you.
she got what looks like sandy brown hair there with a
Yeah.
pinkish red
I
shirt
put my
on.
wool in the freezer and a little bug got in.
Yeah.
All right, so
It's 2024. Welcome everyone. Yeah.
right,
Okay.
exactly, Mitsuni.
Okay. So what do we have on for top for tonight, Mike?
Okay, yeah, I was just about to get to that. So with that being said, so we got a couple articles we're going to go over. One from Bounding into Comics, one from Bleeding Full. The Bounding into Comics article we're going to talk about. So I guess one of the Marvel X-Men editors is talking about. I guess he's defending the criticism for the bloodlust in the Krakoa era, and then in the other article, that one will be over on Bleeding Full. One of our one of our favorite columnists to cover, Avi Green. She
Yes, because it's
talks about superhero cartoons. I guess a magazine came out with some list that I guess he's critiquing or what have you. We'll look at that. Also have the wrestling wrap up and then this day in each history. So with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started? Let me just pull up the share screen here for that.
yeah.
Hmm. Let's see now. Yeah.
Obviously, Natsumi, according with you're a little bit into wrestling from answering the question on the Discord. But are you into regular superhero stuff or just anime, manga? Don't feel you have to answer. I'm just continuing conversation while Mike is getting things set up here.
Yeah.
For the article.
Yeah. I guess what Rick is asking you, obviously, what because we do cover like 4 or 5 different genres here. So I guess which genres are you most interested in? Yeah, I love a bit of everything. It's why I'm subscribed. Okay, that's
Awesome.
all right. So let's get into this first article then. Alrighty then, let's look at this. All right, so Marvel Comics X-Men editor defends criticism of mutants' bloodlust during Krakoa era. Quote, I tend to subscribe to the idea that superheroes are intended to embody a higher morality than that, unquote. So, article by Spencer McCauley published earlier today, the 21st. So, you got the Nightcrawler. You got Nightcrawler right there, Kurt Wagner. All right, so
The Nightcrawler, yeah.
despite receiving pushback for his recent criticisms, current Marvel Comics X-Men line editor Tom Brevoort is standing by his belief that one of the biggest narrative failings during the team's Krakoa era was their portrayal as gleeful and wanted killers. So, so I guess he criticized the fact that
Okay.
I guess how they
This is not. They did it joyfully. Not a era of. I believe I've read of the X Men myself.
or
I
the
don't
current
mind the X Men. I've watched the. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, it could have been like a couple story arcs ago or whatever. Not something like I said. I'm not reading X Men at current. I like them. I watched a bunch of their stuff in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I've played some of the video games. So I've read some of their comics.
Right, so as
So
previously reported, were you about to say something, Rick?
I was just saying about getting on with the article as you wrote it, as you did it. So
As previously reported, asked by a fan as to whether or not he intended, quote, to make your tenure on the X-Men less morally gray than they've been written for the last 45 years, unquote, Bravort opined, quote, my philosophy boils down to this. I don't think that the X-Men should be casual or gleeful killers, unquote. Quote, while they have certainly been in situations where lethal force was called for and appropriate over the years, I don't think that this should be their default setting. And I would actually say a lot of you would agree with that.
yeah. They do have Wolverine on the team, who is or how he's been on and off the team for various reasons, and he is a straight up killer at times. That's what he's been trained to do, and of course they've had other characters on the team as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, my cast subscribers, he has over 200. I'm not sure whether you are one night or not. For sure, good night, Spoon. I know I am one. And of course,
Yeah,
it's a bit of
on
teasing,
my
but good night,
subscribe
Spoon.
account, it's kind of funny because most of the thing, most of my analytics say I have 220. But when I took a look at the earn section, the section where you can look up to see like how far you are from certain milestones, according to
Yeah.
that section, I have 237 subscribers. So, and
Oh, okay.
they apparently haven't been updated yet. I guess it was as of according to at least the earn section of my analytics page. I have, as of August 16th, which was 5 days ago, or last Friday, I had 237 super. But everything else, like whenever I like pull up to share or I look at my dashboard or anything like that, it says 220. So I am
Now
not.
that two, you're not subscribed. That 237 might be the. I'm not sure, but there's the lifetime subscribers that you've had. Some come and go. Like I've probably had double the number of subscribers that mine currently shows, because a third to half probably have of the subscribers I've gotten have quit or more. So
Yeah, I was thinking that too. But having people subscribe and unsubscribe, what have you. That I mean, I don't know if that is because again, because I don't look at that thing like all the time or anything like that. Kind of hard to tell,
yeah,
but I would think though that it might be, but I
because
guess
that sounds more like what it would be than because I can't see that being off that much between the two
yeah,
things,
yeah.
and especially for
Right,
like
but
a week.
I guess eventually we'll see what happens and see how that all figures. Anyways, back to the article here. Let's see. All right, so he argued via his personal Substack blog, "Man with a Hat." Quote. And one of my big complaints about the end of the Orcus War um, was in how readily and even joyfully some of the X-Men murdered their foes. That's fine for some characters. Nobody is going to question, well, Ring killing a bunch of people, parentheses here, though I feel that even he has certain rules of engagement, which he will honorably try to follow, unparentheses there. And I think in Wolverine's, as you were pointing out, he was trained for it. And you think about some of the horrors he'd gone through, and you think about like the
Yeah.
issues he's had with, like, for example, Sabretooth over the years, right?
Yeah.
Those
And
two are
well,
mortal enemies.
and at one point he couldn't remember most of his life either. A Wolverine. So
Yeah, but
I think he knows what went on before a certain point now, but I'm not sure.
yeah. But seeing Nightcrawler teleport a couple of hapless Orchid's goons into deep space and leave them to die just felt wildly out of character and wrong to me. Yeah, Nightcrawler
Yeah.
doing something like that, I would kind of have to agree.
Oh, yeah. In some ways, I do, but he has that swashbuckling side to him too. That you've seen him with swords.
Okay. Everybody has a dark side. Rick, as a
Yeah.
Christian,
I mean,
you
yeah.
know this.
Yeah.
As somebody who's studied Christian, theology and so that I know this. We're all capable of sin. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I get that, but I'm just saying, like we've seen the quote unquote religious Nightcrawler, and that's somewhat what he's known for. But they have shown him as that swashbuckler, that pirate. Now, I guess not all pirates would have to kill or whatever,
Mhm.
but we've seen that they've shown him as that with swords as weapons. And if you're gonna have a sword, most likely you're probably going to be using it definitely to maim, if not kill.
Yeah. Other thing, gonna spoon here. When you're watching a video and hear the creator say, um, "My analytics say 80% of my viewers are not subscribed," I like to imagine they're talking directly to me. uh, Wait, you have to tell everyone what percentage of your viewers are. I don't think I actually gave percent. I didn't even look at that. I just went with the actual numbers. You know,
Yeah.
I was just pointing out the discrepancy um between like what I see, like when I share it. When I share it or when I go to my dashboard compared to what the analytics page is saying. All right.
Yeah.
So that's all I was doing. I'm incapable of sin. Well, you're kind of committing a sin right
Yeah.
then and there with that statement. The sin is called pride.
Yeah.
You're committing
Or
the pride
something
of
to that
sin with
effect.
that very statement. So you're incapable of sin. No, you're not. I'm sorry to say.
It's either pride or lying. Take your pick.
Yeah. How's that? Well, we just explained it to you. Um,
Well,
that's kind of an arrogant statement. That's a statement against. But then
well, we
again,
know
I don't
because
know if
there's
you actually believe. I don't know if you actually believe in Christianity or anything like that. So I don't know if even if Rick and I were to give some of the biblical examples, if or the biblical reasoning for that, if it'd be something that you'd even respond to anyways. So
well, first of all, you have to realize Goodnight Food is just trolling us completely with the statement, just trying to get a response, which he's done. So that's why I would have probably just ignored it. Yeah, right. um, but yeah, even if you don't want to believe in the biblical doctrine, everybody does wrong. So and doing wrong is quote unquote sin. So I'll be studying. I'll be studying. So chat much. No problem, Mitsubi.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, if anything if anything you hear here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. But thanks for at least keeping the viewing on, so we can get the view hours up. So, anyways, getting back to
Article.
the article here. Quote: If our heroes are going to be heroes, and they have to be held to a higher standard than that. And I think most people, especially older people, those of us who are older, those of us who grew up in the Silver Age, and even, I mean, you go even back further to the Golden Age there. I think maybe not, well, not yet as much. I mean, because the very early days of the Golden Age, they were a little bit darker, but I think overall, when we think of heroes, we think of them having a higher moral standard than most people. That's what
Yeah,
makes heroes,
yeah,
right?
but like we think our heroes don't don't have to or shouldn't kill, but even if you look in the Bible, we do see some of the biblical heroes, if not all of the biblical heroes, at some point killing. Um,
Well, I mean, if
obviously,
you remember the
obviously not New Testament ones, but of course, more New Old Testament is the ones that refer to.
well, I mean, and the thing is that and even and trying to even say that God, you know, whether or not God condones people killing each other. I mean, look, I mean, if you remember the story of Joshua, right? He
Yeah,
in essence had told you know his people to basically annihilate the people who are there in the valley and take the land. He
yeah,
and we saw what happened
yeah,
when he didn't totally do that. When you did, when God did decide to let them, some of the people kind of helped them out, and God said, okay, I guess I'll let these few people, stick around. But God
yeah,
obviously had a good reason for wanting to have them just completely annihilate, because those few
yeah,
people that still stuck around were kind of like weeds, right? They
yeah,
ultimately led, if knowing your Old Testament history, they ultimately led to more problems for the Jews down the line. You know, But anyways,
yeah.
not that we're
But
trying
yeah,
to get
and
into
then
a biblical debate or theological discussion here. Um,
yeah,
let's get back to the
yeah, and then there is a difference between quote unquote killing and murder.
yeah. So, but with that being said, let's Brevoort posited, quote, "We said it a lot back in Deathlock 30 plus years ago. You've got to do what's right, not what's easiest. I'm sure that we'll have plenty of moral gray and that we can explore, but I do think that the days when the X-Men would casually throw around lethal force and laugh about it thereafter are over now." Unquote. Which I think partly might have been what Avi. Remember when we were having this debate where Avi was talking about like a lot of the darkness that was being presented in comics, and on the horror side and all that, and Elk was getting all upset. I think this is one of the things he was kind of talking about. One of the things he was kind of alluding to in his argument there, in terms of Avi's argument.
Yeah,
So let's see. Fast forward 2 weeks, and Bravort has yet again been pressed by fan to explain his position regarding the recent kill count of Marvel's Merry Band of Mutants. Merry Band of Mutants. That's kind of a very interesting way of putting it.
Robin Hood.
Yeah. In the most recent entry into his aforementioned blog, the ex-editor um, was asked by a fan to detail um, how he would have specifically written the aforementioned teleporter, considering he quote had just witnessed all at once his species murdered, displaced, imprisoned, psychologically and physically tortured, experimented on, mutilated, brainwashed, depowered, enslaved, and put into camps. Unquote. Um, and again, this kind of goes towards Magneto too, because Magneto's whole thing was the same thing. Quote, it's easy to preach how you wouldn't have Kurt killing, unquote, they posited. Quote, but bless the writers who decided to put some stakes and pressure into a rushed event out in order to not have another AVX level fiasco, unquote.
Well, there's probably apparently rushed it and interceded. No, he was not saying that you were. He was saying your statement was. Well, I guess if your statement was, that makes you a little bit, but maybe not all the time. In this instance, your statement would be saying that you would have no sin. Because somebody that says that is either prideful or deluded, if they mean it. My birthday's in June. Good night, man. It was back a couple months ago. In fact, almost 2 months ago now. In 3 days.
Mine's in October, so. In fact, it's funny because I actually share the same exact birthday as professional wrestler Rhino, Terry Gurn. So he and I share the exact same birthday. So we'll both be turning 49 this year. So anyway, straightforward in his response, Bravort in turn asserted, quote, I wouldn't have written him as suddenly being an unrepentant killer after years of him being the X-Man who most held all life sacred, unquote. Quote. And again, this is something we've talked about in many of the ways that the modern writers have been like messing around with continuity and all that, with some of these changes in other areas. But quote, but beyond that, I tend to find the larger argument has totally slanted here totally slanted by those who use it, unquote. He wrote, quote, I heard a lot of this kind of sentiment over the years from Zack Snyder fans who tried to convince me that Superman breaking the neck of Zod in Man of Steel was a necessary and inevitable action. And they played out as somewhat of a similar scene in Justice League Unlimited too during the Doomsday sanction episode where Superman basically sent Doomsday off to the and kind of some of the debate he and Bruce were having there. So
yeah.
Quote
24th.
Quote, and I think is off base for a couple of very simple reasons, unquote, Bravort opined. Quote, one, these are stories, which means that all of the rules of engagement are controlled by some writer somewhere pulling the strings. So there isn't any no-win scenario possible except when a writer contrives to make it so. And two, we've published 50 years of comic book stories in which Nightcrawler has overcome far more potent enemies I think they're supposed to read Dan, but they typo there. Than a bigot with a gun, without needing to toss them into a void to their deaths. So clearly, it's possible for him to do so. Unquote.
Yeah, that I would agree. Nightcrawler didn't have to bring them to space. He could have brought them, anywhere else on the planet, far away. Especially if he could get up to space to drop them off.
Yeah.
And good night, Spoon's wanting to know when in October. And
Oh, on my birthday, October 7th.
yeah, and as for having never, well, saying that you're incapable of it would indicate that you had never sinned before. So, unless you suddenly become incapable of it, again, that's
Yeah. Quote. The only reason. Go ahead, Rick.
I was, I'm not sure. I didn't have anything specific to say. I was just thinking about trying what to say, but I have no idea what to say to more to Good Night Spoon's statement.
Quote. The only reason for him not to do so is a desire for revenge and catharsis on the part of the character. The creators and the readers, and I don't think that particular catharsis is a healthy thing. I tend to subscribe to the idea.
I do.
Go ahead, Rick.
Sorry, I do want to say one thing about the article. I don't mind the guy. Yeah, maybe they've figured out a way out of these scenarios before. I don't mind there being a no-win scenario in the comic. It would be great for the characters.
Within certain
the
context,
Nightcrawler
though. Within
thing,
certain context,
is
right?
different. Yes. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
what Braveheart's talking about just
within the
killing for the
context
sake
of
of killing, I think is what he's more talking about.
Yeah, yeah. But Nightcrawler, taking them to the void of space. That's not about a no-win scenario. That's just the writer being an idiot. The no-win scenario is there are no-win scenarios that somewhat could be in the comics, and I'm thinking that as a war as the whole, not these individual battles.
Well, I think part. Okay, so Rick, did you see
Yeah, I
comments?
was sort of reading it. I wasn't sure whether I was going to reply right now or what. You get a little bit more on that. That's not how it works. If I were incapable of walking as a result of injury, you're saying that I never walked, that I would say it's a little different scenario. The sin nature is built into us. Um, can it be cut out in a sense? We can shoot. Saying that we were incapable would be wrong because we'd still be capable of sin. We could choose not to, and that is it's possible to resist sin because sin is resistible. Um, but most humans don't resist it, and I'm not sure whether we all know what all sin is, too, because
Well, yeah, it also.
well, it depends on who you're answering to. Anyway, sorry. Bye.
Yeah. Well, it also goes back to something I often say, and it's something that I think was even pointed out in Romans, right? The whole idea that as human beings, we could justify any behavior within our own reasoning, good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, we could say, well, they hurt us, so we have every right to hurt them. They murdered my family, so I have a right to murder them and their family. That's justification. But I also remember from the Justice League episode, from a Justice League episode, where Flash pointed out that Granny Flash had said, "Yeah, the problem with an eye for an eye is that everyone ends up blind."
Yeah. Ultimately, it's not me or you that Goodnight Spoon has to justify his actions or inactions to. It would be God,
Right.
because it's, yes, he can quote unquote sin against us, but it's ultimately God that you have to answer to for sinning
Yeah.
against God. Well, at
When
least in my
that
belief,
is
his belief
also
might be different. Obviously.
yeah. Yeah. So with that, continuing on with the article here. So quote, the only reason for him not to do so is a desire for, okay, actually we
We
read
read
that.
that. I think
Yeah,
you said I tend to subscribe
oh yeah.
down too
I
much.
tend to subscribe to the idea that superheroes are intended to embody a higher morality than that. And if they just go around killing anybody they don't like, they cease to be heroes and instead become the kinds of people that they're fighting and killing. Basically, the idea is you become the very monsters you're fighting. You know,
Yeah.
there
Uh,
must
uh,
always be a line. You know, so,
yeah. Oh, but with the X-Men, yes, we consider them superheroes, but and since they are heroes, but they are also they are warriors, so they fall under a slightly different category, in my opinion. And I wasn't accusing you of sinning against me. I'm just saying we can sin against each other, stuff say or do to each other, and I'm not saying that you have. I'm just saying we can, but ultimately there's also sinning against God, and if somebody sins against you, you're just supposed to forgive them. So I don't even try not to think about it.
yeah. So with that, continuing on then with the article here then. To this end, Bravort then asserted, quote, even Wolverine has a line, though some writers in recent years have overlooked it, unquote, offering up a page from Uncanny X-Men, Volume 1, number 140, in support of his arguments, wherein the team's resident berserker explains to Nightcrawler that he, quote, never used my claws on someone who hadn't tried to kill me first, unquote. Um,
Oh, I'm not sure whether I would believe that line.
yeah. The editor detailed, quote, here, Logan explains under what conditions he feels that it's appropriate to use lethal force against his foes. And it's a set of rules that make sense for that character, unquote.
True.
Quote.
Um, and true to that, and true to Good Night Spoon.
Yeah.
People would
Quote.
do lots of things that you don't
Yeah.
engage in. Yeah, same here.
But even then, Nightcrawler doesn't agree with Wolverine's philosophy, unquote. He pointed out, quote, his position is more hardline on the issue, and he makes no bones about saying so. That's part of what makes characters different and the stories interesting.
True, very true. But Wolverine probably has killed some people that didn't try to kill him, because maybe they've just tried to hurt him. Because you're in a fight. Maybe they're not out to try and kill him. Maybe they're just out to knock him out. But the claws come out, depending where those claws strike.
Yeah. So bringing his
Those claws
thoughts
could
on
be
the matter,
deadly.
bringing his thoughts on the matter to a close, Bravort um, ultimately declared, quote, you are certainly welcome to disagree with any or all of this, but it's my X line now. And that means, at least for the time being, the X-Men are going to only when it is absolutely necessary and there is no other option available to them, unquote.
And
Quote,
yeah, that's good. You know,
quote, and as much as possible, unquote, he concluded, quote, we'll try to see the after effects of those instances when somebody is killed, so that the taking of life doesn't become just a spectacle of bread and circuses. All right, so there we go with that one. So we're done with that article. So we're already 40 minutes in here.
Yeah, we
But
might not be able to get three. You said you had two articles, so we might, depending on how big the next article is.
yeah, well,
Anyhow, back to my research chapter. Rick Facebook called me greedy. Why did it call me greedy? And Mike Facebook called you gluttonous. Okay, how did that come about? Would be my question.
well, I didn't call him a glutton. I said he when I said earlier.
No. He's not saying that's what you said. He's saying he did some sort of research and Facebook called you, Mike. Facebook called you a glutton, and it called me, Rick, greedy. I don't know how he would have got Facebook to come to that conclusion. That's what I was asking him.
Yeah. So, anyways, and I guess it looks like I'm just looking at it now, and it doesn't look like Chris Braley has put up a new episode of the Indie Comic Showcase yet. So whether or not but that's usually tomorrow. So, anyways, New York Magazine's hilariously bad list of the in small quotes best superhero cartoons. Article by Avi Green published today. And the picture here of Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Well, let's see what Avi has to say here. New York Magazine's Vulture department listed 35 of the superhero cartoons they consider best, but are actually some of the most pretentious. For instance, Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Now going to the art, referencing the article. In 2024, it can be hard to find unironic merit in Captain Planet. The show is unidentified.
Hold on.
What?
I just want to say bye to Natsumi. Natsumi has to go. It is 3 a.m. there. So thanks for stopping by, Natsumi.
All right.
Have a good sleep.
Must depart. It's nearly 3 a.m. Have a good. Well, thank you, and thank you for dropping in and liking, sharing. Natsumi, hopefully we can hopefully get more people with your help, and I will hopefully see you on again. So tomorrow night in particular. So, anyways, well, let's keep going with the article here. So this is from the article. Okay, so let's see. The show is undeniably goofy, with stilted animation and melodramatic dialogue recited at a fever pitch. A parade of celebrity voices like Sting, Whoopi Goldberg, who I believe Whoopi does the voice of Gaia in the show, I believe. Jeff Goldblum, Meg Ryan, Dean Starkwell, and Martin Sheen often make it feel more like bizarre pop art than an actual series. But its intentions, in parentheses, ones that were quick to be lampooned throughout the apathetic 90s and beyond, in parentheses, managed to outweigh its presentation at times. Captain Planet's themes of environmentalism and teaching others that they are a vital part of our world are good. Actually, much more than a preachy cartoon seminar about recycling. Captain Planet strove to make kids understand their responsibility to the earth and its preservation. An empowering lesson between breakfast cereal commercials. Now going back to Avi here.
Yeah, and it just more made kids nauseous.
What was that?
And I said the cartoon just more made kids nauseous.
It may have boasted celebrity casting, but it was still a little more than environmental propaganda and hasn't aged well in that regard. Must it be pointed out that prevalent issues like Islamic terrorism, which has led to harm, which has led to harm of the environment in its own way, and much more serious than whether a flower garden's going to be made a mess. Indeed, not everybody recalls this cartoon so fondly, based on how heavy handed its messaging was, and the hero doesn't actually stick around to clean up pollution. Um, for its time, well, I think the idea was okay, but because I watched Captain Planet too and the Planeteers,
Yeah.
I think the idea was Captain Planet was supposed to handle the more catastrophic stuff, but then the Planeteers, but then he would leave it because the whole idea was to inspire people to take more of an active role in like in environmental issues,
Yeah.
cleaning up after themselves, not littering,
Yeah. And he can only exist for a little bit of time too when he was called to be formed.
yeah.
You know,
So
he was he was he was Voltron in a sense.
yeah,
A human, a human Voltron, or he was the Megazord, if you
yeah,
will, for Power Rangers.
yeah. For its time, it sure was one of the most absurd, politically motivated cartoons that could be made. Now we have to remember too, the person who was behind this cartoon, one of the people who was key as one of the main producers of it, because if you remember, this is also on TBS. And do you know who owned the Turner Broadcasting System here in the states?
Ted
Do you know
Turner,
who owned that?
Ted Turner, and he was very into
He was
Christmas.
very liberal. He was a very liberal
Yeah,
individual
the
at that
thing
time.
I think I wanted to watch it a little bit, but my mom really did want me to watch it. She tried to get me not to watch it at all.
Yeah. For its time, it sure was. Okay, yeah, we read that part. That it could be, and come to think of it, casting celebrities as voice actors does not a merit-based production make. Say what they will, it was regrettably preachy. Next from the list is Harley Quinn. So this going back to the article. Few comic book characters created in the last 30 years have managed to have as immediate of an impact or been as instantly beloved as Harley Quinn. Introduced in Batman the Animated Series, Harley's star power has risen to the point that she's led multiple live action films and now headlines her own Max show. Harley Quinn
Yeah, which sucks.
raunch, sweetness, and violence all in one, partly thanks to its assured voice acting. Kaylee Cuoco's Harley is great, but Ron Funch's King Shark is the heart of that series. Unproved. Now let's see what Avi has to say about that. More sugarcoating of a villainess is by far one of the most frustrating examples of a character whose history includes lethal behavior. Certainly, now again, considering what Avi has said in the past, is this critique is not surprising to me. Basically, the idea is that I think what he's saying there in that first line is that yeah, you're glorifying a villain, basically, and that's
Yeah.
what he's much of
What
the
is this list for? Oh, cartoon. The 35 best cartoons.
according to New York Magazine. According to New York Magazine, I guess it's in their Vulture section, the 35 best superhero cartoons. Much of the quote unquote impact HQs had seems Harley Quinn's had seems quite manufactured and certainly the sad result of entertainment consumers who couldn't understand why cheering on criminals is a very poor example. Next up is My Adventures with Superman.
Now, I must say, Harley Quinn did become a very beloved villainess from the beginning, and I think they've ruined her by what they've done with her since then in a lot of ways. But you know, she just became a natural. Everybody liked her just because of her personality. But now she's still got some of it, but it's like she's become a little too. I think that's the problem. She has become too raunchy. She wasn't all that raunchy in Batman the animated series. She was just in
Well,
love
because if
with
you
the
remember though,
J.
that was a kids' cartoon though. Of course, they couldn't make her raunchy, but they did
Yeah,
kind. They kind of they did play up her romance with the Joker a bit.
yeah,
And then
but
you also kind of saw at times when they were granted they didn't do anything outright with this angle. It didn't come until into the comics later. Her whole relationship with Poison Ivy, where they were just looked at as being good, best BFFs or girlfriends in a more platonic sense,
yeah,
not
yeah.
in the other.
They did trying to do stuff to make her more raunchy, which which is what I think has ruined her a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because and making her even more psychotic than the Joker, if you will, almost, which is just crazy in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know how many of these they're gonna do because 35 is a lot.
Yeah. Well, yeah, why it is kind of lengthy, but they don't I don't think they do all 35. But I think Avi's just giving
Yeah.
some examples here, just just to kind of help his point. So this back on the into the article there, or back into the New York Magazine article. Though plenty of series on this list, from Teen Titans to the Batman, are obviously inspired by anime. None were None wear adoration for the medium on their sleeves, quite like My Adventures with Superman, nodding at everything from household names like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon to lesser known titles like Pretty Cure, Ouran High School Host Club, and Pat Labor. My Adventures with Superman is a delight for both anime devotees and Superman aficionados. As the
No,
first,
it's not. At least not for the last part.
well, I even told you I couldn't get past the first 2 seconds of it. Basically, I saw
I was
after
able.
2 seconds I was already done with it. So
I got into it a bit, and I could probably watch it, but it would not be a delight. And I am Superman's like my top five of superheroes, and I think I know a fair amount about Superman. And anybody that knows Superman that is a Superman aficionado, as they say. It would not be a delight for
yeah, as the first new cartoon to give a real spotlight to the Man of Steel in over 15 years. Parentheses. The last one was 2006's underrated Legion of Superheroes.
that. I
Um,
would agree.
what was that?
A Legions of Superheroes was underrated.
Yeah. It's a refreshing take that pulls liberally from the character's near 90-year history. Um, there's a third season on the way, all but ensuring even more meet cutes, fistfights, and declarations about the power of friendship. And this is Abi's response to that. And here they fluff coat how the series humiliates Lois Lane by making her look masculine. The part about drawing quote unquote liberally actually figures in the sense leftists clearly oversaw how this was done, right down to the race swapping of Jimmy Olsen. All that aside, what material I've seen doesn't look particularly anime style. Then there's X-Men 97. Going back to the
Yeah, it
article.
does look a little bit of anime style to me.
Yeah. Though it's easy to lump the first season of X-Men 97 in a sort of quote unquote sixth season for the classic 90s cartoon, it very much stands on its own. In fact, 97 seems to be in conversation with in conversation with the original show celebrating the influential series, while also dissecting its themes and asking questions about the conclusions. In parentheses, the idea that Magneto might be right about his whole quote mankind will truly empathize with us unquote
Never.
treatise, something that has fueled a lot of X-Men discourse since the 92 series, is pushed into the forefront in 97 unparentheses. It's also jam-packed full of action, skipping across the melding adaptations of famous X-Men comics in a way that can be both thrilling and whiplash inducing. Yeah. Um, Seeing if it sticks, its landing in its second season will probably improve its ranking here. But for now, it makes for a fitting continuation of one of Marvel's most beloved television efforts.
One of the main problems I have for X-Men 97 is it takes um, storylines, I should say, that happened in the comics after 97. They should, to really do this well, they should have taken storyline from before 97 because they would not have had access to those storylines because they wouldn't have been written yet.
Yeah. Well, my guess is the reason they probably didn't do that is because those storylines before 97 probably didn't fit their agenda.
Oh yeah, of course. That's definitely one of the reasons for sure. I would
Interesting. They don't mention the hack job this cartoon does with Rogue, dumbing down her physique in what was another form of political correctness. And that got talked about quite a bit, including here.
Yeah.
And leftist motivation, which includes the forced changes to morph, that they also oft gambit in one of the episodes, is additionally reprehensible. Some quote unquote fit, all right, and some quote unquote celebration. There's also a most appallingly fluff created take on the Steven universe on the list. And in this, here's the portion of the article from that. So, regarded as one of the greatest cartoons of recent years, Steven Universe's sense of broad empathy and its intricate portrayals of LGBTQ characters makes for a pleasant
of course,
watch.
that's kind of making it up on the list because of that.
What was that?
I said, of course, it's kind of making it up high on the list because of that.
Yeah. Well, I've never watched Steven Universe, so I wasn't even aware that they were pushing that on a kids' cartoon.
Well,
They
guess
are. What was that?
Guess what? Guess what? Same here. I don't watch it.
Yeah.
It's not my style.
Well, for me, I just don't watch modern stuff to begin with, because my take is I think most modern stuff today, most stuff they're putting out today, is filled with all this kind of garbage. So I prefer going back and watching Golden Age stuff and Silver Age stuff.
There are some good, more modern ones. I know this isn't a cartoon, but the rendition of Stargirl that was live action, that was actually a good series. Yeah. I'm not sure whether it's continuing on or not, but that was a good series. Supergirl before its first season was good. Flash and Arrow were good in the first seasons, of course. Legends of Tomorrow well, sucked. And I know I'm talking live action here, not cartoons.
Mhm.
But there is some good stuff nowadays, but it's harder to find.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll let you.
All right. So yeah, because we're already at the hour mark here. So um, let's see. Its lead character, the eponymous Stephen, is also allowed to be affected by the stakes and dangers of the narrative, and his psychological trauma takes a forefront as the series goes on. Follow-up, Steven Universe Future, is a rare treat, giving fans a chance to say goodbye while also looking back on the original series with both scrutiny and care. And let's see what
I
Avi has to
doubt
say.
it.
Let's see what Avi has to say about it. No questions asked whether this is suitable material for children. Um, and I would have to kind of agree with that from what I'm
Yeah.
reading there. If that's whom it's marketed to. Wow. Of all the most sugar coated takes on these past items, the above surely tops them all with its blatant gushing. It almost sounds like they believe that because Steven Universe emphasizes LGBT ideology, that somehow makes it appropriate with the quote unquote narrative praiseworthy. What about any cartoons that aren't built upon heavy handed LGBT ideology or leftism and still have adult subjects and situations? Why don't those count? In the end, Vulture's done little more and produced another laughable article wasting time on cartoons that are otherwise juvenile, and in some of the examples, leftist propaganda is espoused ad nauseum, which doesn't age them well. And no questions asked whether the animation industry should show the courage to develop cartoons that, if adult, could explore far more challenging issues like Islamic terrorism and modern slavery. If serious topics are believed to be important for animation as much as live action. All right, so, all right, Rick. Well, what do you
I
think
would
about
actually,
all that?
for the little bit that we saw of it, it seemed like a decent take actually for Abby. Um, like
Well, I
I
think
don't know
this time
much
he,
about
I
Stephen.
think this time he backed up more of what he was like in some of the past articles. Maybe he wasn't backing up a lot of his statements as thoroughly. Maybe somebody did finally get in his ear and tell him, "Hey, look, you might want to follow this up a little bit more." Maybe one of his editors or maybe Chris talked to him and said, "Hey, look, you might want to add a little more meat here to kind of help
Yeah,
support your arguments."
well,
Yeah.
that may be the case. Only time will tell as we read more articles by Abby. Maybe, like I said, I know in the past when I first started coming around, maybe I wasn't paying attention enough or whatever. Abby seemed decent. Uh, there came a point where his articles seemed to be a little pathetic, shall we say, nicely. Um,
Mhm.
and he does have some even in the pathetic era, shall we call it. He's had some hits and misses. Like you said, sometimes he does back it up. He's got some decent points, but he does back it up, or it doesn't make sense entirely at all. But that's a different thing. I would like to see more of the list. What
Yeah.
made the list?
Well,
I want to see how
that was a
laughable it
pretty
was.
lengthy article to begin with, Rick. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If
I think
they,
Avi gave enough examples there to get his point across.
yeah, well, obviously the article goes over each one by one, and obviously Abby could do one by one, and I would thank him for that. I would have liked him to see him just do a take out all their fluff part, on the thing, and put the number, on number 12, Steven Universe, number 34, X-Men 97. Just show that list that the ones that they included, that one I think they would have got a real laugh, possibly depending on what they were. For us that watch superhero cartoons, what did they put on? What did they not put on? You know, that would have been interesting. I think that should have been part of the article, but that's my one take from it in the end. And I get where, yeah, it would have made it a little bit longer. I'd just say, but not all the fluff to it, no explanation, just the list, what it was. You see what I mean? It would have been
Yeah.
nice to see that because they've obviously went on about each one when they put it on the list. You can't cover that whole thing.
All right. So, anyways, we're going to move on to the wrestling round now. So first off, we're going to take a quick peek at what happened on last night's WWE and NXT, and I guess a non-title match. The NXT Tag Team Champions Axiom and Nathan Frazier took on in a three-way match the teams of Chase U of Duke Hudson and Riley Osborne. Riley Osborne, who actually no, I guess it was a tag team match, so it's 3 men. I just saw all the people who were in Chase U's corner, but Riley Osborne just recently also competed in TNA and just recently advanced to the Ultimate X title match. But Axiom and Nathan Frazier defeated the Chase U duo of Duke Hudson and Riley Osborne to open up the show. And Wendy Chu defeated Lola Vice in a singles match. In a match to determine the number one contender to the NXT Women's title in a contenders match, Jada Parker outlasted Adriana Rizzo, Brinley Pierce, Kendall Gray, Sol Ruka, and Ren Sinclair. Hank and Tank, the team of Hank and Tank, Tank Ledger and Hank Walker defeated the OC of Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, a tag team match. In a singles match, Ashante Adonis defeated Dion Lennox. And the main event saw in a number one contenders triple threat match, the NXT title. TNA's Joe Hendry, making another appearance on NXT, defeated Pete Dunne and Wes Lee to become the number one contender to the NXT title in a continuation of the TNA NXT working agreement. And moving on to the NWA Power, on last night's Power show opened up with a four-way match for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title, which Joe Alonzo retained the title over Eric Smalls, Rolando, and Soda Pop Hendricks. Jax Dane defeated Anthony Catena in a singles match. Baron Von Storm defeated Boz. And EC3 retained the NWA World Heavyweight title in a defense against one half of the country gentleman, Casey Kazana.
And as for your question, goodness moon, what Omni-Man? I'm not sure whether you mean what or who. From what I know, Omni-Man is a character in the Invincible universe, and he's basically Superman-esque. Probably more Zod. Having fathered a kid on Earth with a human.
And of course, on tonight's Dynamite on TBS, you'll see Tony Storm defending the women's world title against Saraya. And there's some rumors saying that Saraya's AEW contract is coming up, will be up, in September. So I guess she's just filling out the rest of her contract. Also, Kazuchika Okada of the Elite defends the Continental title against Claudio Castagnoli. And the main event looks like in a 6-man tag match, Darby Allin teams with FTR to take on the Elite members of Jack Perry and the Young Bucks of, in a prelude before their upcoming match, Darby Allin going after the TNT title currently held by Jack Perry, and FTR going after the Young Bucks, along with, of course, also involved in that match is a triple threat match for the AEW World Tag Team title with the Acclaimed as well. So, anyways, that's all I've got for you guys on the wrestling wrap up. So now, what we're gonna do now is actually I'm gonna check something here real quick. Just want to look.
And Good Night Spoon, not Invisible Man, Invincible. The character Invincible. He's just called Invincible. And I say universe just because he's the main and protagonist,
Yeah,
and his dad is one of the main antagonists or his species.
And all right. So with that being said, today is Wednesday. August 21st, 2024. So let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. So we actually have some like 3 birthdays to celebrate. First off, wishing a happy 60th birthday to voice actress Susan Eisenberg. Happy 60th birthday to Susan Eisenberg, who, of course, most people would know her from her roles as Wonder Woman in the DC animated universe, along with such movies as Superman, Batman, Apocalypse, and Justice League Doom. Among some of the other characters she's done include Viper in Jackie Chan Adventures, The Sorceress in Masters of the Universe Revelation, Power Princess in the Superhero Squad episode Whom Continuity Would Destroy, Sailor and Avatar. So happy 60th birthday to Susan Eisenberg.
Yeah. Okay. And speaking birthdays, that's how Goodnight Spoon got Google and TikTok to say that what we were, that I was what was it? Greedy and you were gluttonous. That's how they did it through our birthdays.
All right. So, anyways, and wishing a happy 40, turning 40 today, turning 40 years old today. We have 2 people turning 40 today, as former WWE diva Eve Torres and current WWE star Raymond Road, aka Eric of the Viking Raiders, both turned 40 today. Both turned 40. So happy 40th birthday to Eve Torres, former WWE diva, and current WWE star Raymond Rowe, aka Eric of the Viking Raiders. So, now, of course, moving on to the next piece of Nietzsche history as we move ahead to 1999. On this date in 1999, so I pull that up, which was, of course, 25 years ago today. On this date, 25 years ago today, the following anime movies premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 1999, 25 years. Madhouse's Cardcaptor Sakura, the movie. Many people would know the series here in the States as simply Cardcaptors. And Toei Animation's The File of Young Kendachi 2, Murderous Deep Blue. Both of these movies premiered on this date back in 1999. So 25 years ago today, Madhouse's Cardcaptor Sakura, the movie, Toei Animation's The File of Young Kendachi 2, Murderous Deep Blue, both premiered in Japanese theaters on this date 25 years ago. All right. And finally, on this date back in 2013, the 10th issue of Judge Dredd from IDW went on sale on this date back in 2013, 11 years ago today. sold $3.99 and was 28 pages. So with that, I do thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Before we head out, of course, Rick, would you like to do an intro?
An intro?
I'm sorry, an outro.
Well,
maybe
for
share
those
your
that don't
link
know,
or whatever.
yeah, that's what I just did. I shared my link, and just reminding people tomorrow night I am having a specialty show at 8 o'clock. Going to be going talking with the Kamaloviches, going over their latest campaign. And although I said maybe next week, maybe if I get a couple minutes, we will say what Invincible is a little bit to answer your question tomorrow night. Good night, Spoon. Well, it's a comic book that became a TV series. Really, that's just basically way to describe it. It's not as bad as The Boys, but it still could be a bit um, gruesome, shall we say?
And then I guess Goodnight Spoon was asking Stallone Dread or Carl Urban. Well, this is a comic book, not the movie. So, all right. Anything more? Anything more, Rick? You want to add before we sign off?
Not that I can think of. Just make sure you come by tomorrow night, 8 o'clock.
All right, and of course I'll be back here at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific, with more Niche News. Where if Chris Braley does have bring up a indie comic showcase, we'll be highlighting that. If not, we'll just be doing the news. Of course, this Friday I'll have Shadowhawk on, as we will be looking back to March of 1940, books that went on sale from Fox Feature Syndicate. Among, of course, the features we'll be looking at will, of course, be Blue Beetle, among others. So, with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.
Stallone. Good night, Spoon. Stallone.